Brrr. Hello. Welcome to the stream. All right, we're live. We've already got a super chat.
Have a nice stream, T1J.
Cool. Does this work?
Have a nice stream, T1J.
Cool. I have the text to speech. Thank you, New Maid, for the 20-pound super chat. I will try to have a nice stream. What's up, Ryan? What's up, Dan? What's up, Maisel? Fonts are much better. Yeah, I have redesigned the overlay, if you guys can tell. And I changed up the fonts for the chat. I'm probably still going to work on the overlay a little bit. Just want to add more stuff. Well, not add more stuff, but I don't know. Just want it to look cool. I spent maybe 6 hours trying out different things for the overlay and for the stream, and trying different services and stuff. Sometimes you have to go for simplicity. A lot of times, you want to make it look cool, so you start adding all these cool effects and using weird fonts and stuff, but then by the time you get to the end of it, it looks busy or just unreadable. It's crazy. What's up, Jay Salt? As a far gone nut job, what do you think of Sargon's ban? Are you safe? So that's supposed to be an insult? Weird question to ask, but when you made your lottery video and why it's bad, I think a little time later, maybe days, YouTuber iDubbbz did a video. Yeah, I saw that he did a video. I didn't watch the video, but I did notice that happened. I think that the lottery, I mean, if you take any critical look at it, it's hard to defend the lottery, to be honest. I don't think that he copied me, because like I said, I think if anybody just takes a close look at it, it's really easy to see that it's pretty dumb. And plus, it was all in the news. I'm sure that many people did videos about it. Would you consider yourself a Marxist? No. But yeah, for those that don't know, this is my weekly stream. I stream every Monday on my channel around about this time, which is 2 p.m. Central Time, and whatever time it is in your time zone. So the best way to keep up with the stream is to subscribe to the channel and click the little notification bell, because then you'll get a notification when I go live. It's pretty cool. Have I seen any good films lately? I haven't seen any new films lately. But I watched The Terminator like 2 days ago, and that movie's amazing. And I hadn't seen it in a while. I forgot how good it was. I always watch Terminator 2 because it like always comes on TV and stuff. But everybody forgets about the original. The original's really good too. I also watched the movie Legally Blonde, which is also a really good movie. It's a movie that you wouldn't expect to be good, but it's actually good. Well, maybe you would expect it to be good. But I haven't watched any new movies. I don't even remember what the last new movie I watched was. I'm planning to go see the Spider-Man movie though, Into the Spider-Verse. Do I like foreign films? I guess. I don't have any specific like or dislike for them. I just like any film that's good. Greatest action movie of all time. Greatest action movie of all time. What qualifies as an action movie? Because like probably my favorite movie is Kill Bill, and that's pretty action-packed movie. But is it an action movie? It's kind of a martial arts movie. Are martial arts movies action movies? Is that what you mean? Does that count? Speaking of the Terminator, Terminator 2 is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. That's definitely an action movie. I also really like The Matrix, but I probably will acknowledge that it's not like one of the best movies ever, but it's one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, Die Hard is probably a common answer to that. Die Hard's pretty good. I like Die Hard. I think a lot of action films probably owe Die Hard a lot. So it's a legendary movie. I actually didn't see the new Mad Max movie. You guys can't tell, I kind of miss out on a lot of movies. I don't go to the movie theater that much. Although I've been saying that I want to watch more movies and go to the theater more often. They Live is a solid action film, but leans more into sci-fi. Word, I've not seen it. Do I have a favorite Disney movie? Probably my favorite Disney movie is, I don't know. I really like Alice in Wonderland. Beauty and the Beast is really good too. But I tend to prefer the old Disney movies, like from like the 40s and 50s and stuff. Have you ever thought about moving to the West Coast? I have thought about moving to the West Coast. There's a good chance that I will move to California at some point, unless I just go ahead and leave the United States altogether. But it's just good when you're in entertainment media industry to be in California, and also the weather's really good, and that's really important to me. Unironically, the weather is unironically important to me when deciding where I want to live. I'm not a socialist, and usually social justice warrior is a term that's used pejoratively, so I don't identify with it. I don't know about that many other Alice in Wonderland movies. I know that the Tim Burton one was not that good. And then there was like an old Disney show, I think, that was like kind of okay. I think it was Disney. Maybe it's something else. So yeah, I don't know if I haven't really seen it. There's a video game based on it that's not very good also. Would you move outside of the US? I'm not sure yet. That's the thing that I plan to research when that becomes a more feasible thing to think about. But I don't know, maybe Canada or like one of the Scandinavian countries. They always get good reviews. That's like the ultimate goal though, or the ultimate dream, I would say. We'll see what happens once I'm actually in that position. Like I might decide that it is useful to stay in the United States for whatever reason. But right now, ideologically, I'm on the train of I kind of want to live in a different country. But we'll see what happens. I'm not really at the point where that's feasible, so I don't really think about it too hard. But if I do stay in the United States, I'm probably almost certainly going to leave Alabama, and at the top of that list is probably Southern California. I like new Disney movies, but I miss the old art style. Yeah, I really like the old art and animation of the older movies. But yeah, I mean, all of the Disney movies, I don't know about all of them, but most of the Disney movies are good, especially Disney animated movies. They have a pretty high standard of quality. What would you describe yourself as politically? I don't know. The thing about these labels is honestly it seems that different people have different views of what labels mean. So I kind of hesitate to use them. I much prefer you ask like specific questions about my views on certain issues and policies. But if I'm like forced, like if you put a gun to my head, I guess I'm some kind of progressive liberal or social democrat, something like that. I don't know a whole lot about China's influence in Africa. I'm gonna have to read up on that. You would enjoy living in London, amazing city to live in. Why is live in quotes? London might be cool. London has really shitty weather though. From what I understand, I've never been. Do you think it's possible to have a popular revolution and not end up with a dictatorship at the end of it? Well, yeah, America did it. Would you ever move to a country where the main language wasn't English? Yeah, sure. I have no issues with that whatsoever. It's not that hard to learn a language if you really want to. Especially if you immerse yourself. It's going to be awkward for a few months, but you'll get there eventually. I subscribe because I liked your hair. Why do people no longer do that? I guess because I don't say it anymore. I haven't talked much about Brexit because I don't really feel like I have the perspective to really comment on it, and I haven't like studied it very closely, and I don't want to talk out of my ass about it. It seems pretty weird though. What's up, member of the tribe? In all of my travels, London is by far the best for people of diverse cultures and ethnicities to live in. Really? I mean, I guess that makes sense. You didn't have a revolution. You declared independence from the British Empire. Yeah, and then there was a whole war. It wasn't just like we were just chilling and we're just like, hey, by the way, we're our own country now, dude. And they're like, oh, my bad, cool. Do you think Trump has a chance to get reelected? I guess he has a chance to get reelected. It's not impossible. But I mean, I have no idea about that because I thought it was very unlikely for him to get elected in the first place, and he did that. So I've learned my lesson about trying to call stuff like that. Do you have any hobbies? I realized recently that I don't have any, and I'm trying to figure out how to reverse that. Yeah. I guess the main one is video games. But I mean, I'm the type of person that I get into stuff a lot. I just don't stick with it. But I mean, that's fine. That's how hobbies are a lot of the time. I don't really have any like long-term hobbies that I've kept out like throughout my life or anything. Part of that is because one of my main hobbies has become my job, which is making videos. But I mean, I get into stuff all the time. Like I really like chess. I like to draw. I don't do it that much, but I like doing it. I like messing around with Rubik's cubes, stuff like that. So I like studying languages, although I've never put enough time to actually learn one fluently. So I'm into a lot of stuff. I hate shopping for Christmas gifts because I don't like to buy stuff. That's just me though. What do you think? I mean, I like buying stuff. I'm okay with that, with buying stuff. I prefer to buy stuff for myself. Well, that's not true. But I like getting stuff as much as I like buying stuff. It can be kind of stressful, especially if you're like on a time limit, but no, I enjoy buying stuff. Have you played Red Dead 2? I have not. I always play games late if I play them. Why do you think armed conflict arises in revolutions? I never got why random people shooting at each other resolves in any way political things. Well, usually revolutions involve sort of rising up against like whoever's in charge, and usually whoever's in charge doesn't really like the fact that you're revolting, and so they try to stop you. So it's kind of hard to pull off a revolution without fighting. The colonies and their governments already existed. They just decided to stop taking orders from the crown. It wasn't like France or Russia where they had to restart from scratch. I mean, kinda. I mean, they existed, but they definitely had to, literally sit around and figure out how they were gonna do this. They didn't just like resume what they were doing before. Like they had to get together and like form a whole nation and write a constitution and figure out what the rules were gonna be. I mean, I see what you're saying. Where do you draw the line between what a community should do to fix certain situations and just plain wishful thinking? I feel like this is a really broad question. Like it just kind of depends on the situation. I don't know if you can draw a clear line. You just have to take each situation at face value and try to figure it out. Have I played Nier Automata? I've played it like a little tiny bit, like at a friend's house. I haven't played it a lot. I'd like to play it though. That's a game that I really want to play. Board games are experiencing a rise depending on where you're at. I think it would be pretty easy to find a group, and most groups I've been in have too many games already, so there's nothing to buy to begin. Oh yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that love board games. I have like a circle of friends that is really into tabletop games and tabletop RPGs and board games and just any kind of like group activity like that. I have played Journey. I know I still haven't played D&D. I was going to, but then for some reason it didn't happen. But one day, like I said, the circle of friends that I have, they play a lot, so I'll have the opportunity to play. All right, member, are you out? Thanks for coming to the stream. What's the end game? Wars always end in surrenders. There's no loss or win condition other than total annihilation of civilians, I guess. It's not like killing the leader of a revolution or killing the leader of a government solves the actual conflict. I mean, I guess the end game is just installing the type of government that you want. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty complicated, I guess. And I'm not really an advocate for war, but generally, if it becomes necessary to revolt, it seems like pretty hard to do without violence. Do you think all the atheists were being ghoulish when they were laughing at that missionary who got killed by those primitive islanders? Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty cruel to sort of relish in someone's death. Like, to me, that seems pretty obviously malevolent. But I think it's fair to just sort of ridicule the dude because he made a stupid decision. Like, to me, it's more about to me it's like more sad and infuriating than it's funny. And it's sort of more evidence about just the danger of religious thinking, because it makes people do stupid shit like that. Which do you prefer, Skyrim or Witcher 3? I've never played Witcher 3, but I'm gonna guess that I would prefer it more. Because I've played Witcher 2, and I like Witcher 2 more than Skyrim, so. Regarding race preference when it comes to dating, if lighter skin is more preferred, how do you justify tanning? Well, I think that the only people who tan are white people, right? And there's like a limit to how much people will tan. Like, no one intentionally tans their skin to make them look like they're, from Africa. But I don't know. I think that tanner skin is more preferred by women than men. And a lot of it is not necessarily the skin color. A lot of it is just the features, like more European features. And I think a lot of it is the culture too, and the state of the culture. Because tanning, for example, I think tanning is less popular now than it was like 10 years ago. I'm also not sure that people think that tanning is attractive in their potential mates. I'd have to see some data on that. Just because people do it doesn't mean that it's considered attractive or more attractive than not. by potential like dating partners. And I'm not sure that it is. All right, thanks for coming to the stream, new maid. Do I smoke? No. Do I have, or do you have any bad habits? I don't know. Does anyone exist that doesn't have bad habits? I have some bad habits. I've never played Bayonetta. Metal Gear Rising is cool though. Apart from Rachel Dolezal, I guess so. That's still like one of the most bizarre stories ever. What's up, Brett? Do I play video games? Yeah, I play some video games. I just bought Smash Bros. I've been playing that mostly. Games I'm playing mostly right now are Smash Bros. And Overwatch. Yeah, I mentioned Brexit a little bit earlier. I don't really, I don't feel like I have enough knowledge about it to really comment. Both because I have an outside perspective, but also because I just haven't researched it that closely. Like I have some, I have my immediate reactions to that sort of thing based on what I've heard, but I hesitate to even bring it up because I just don't really know. Hope you know I'm a huge fan. It's 2 a.m. here in India, and I tune in every Sunday. Huss for your stream? What is Huss? Wish I could donate. Unfortunately, I'm a broke college dude. Oh, here. Okay. I see. I appreciate that. Just showing up is awesome. Donations are optional, and donations are obviously appreciated, but just showing up is amazing. There's only currently 31 people. So out of 30, like I have over 100,000 subscribers, but only 30 people are watching. And to me, that's pretty unique. It's pretty special that 30 of my 100,000 subscribers just want to hang out with me. So that's cool. I'm into that. What is my favorite video games? My favorite video game of all time is probably Metal Gear Solid 3. I like all the Smash Brothers games. I really like fighting games. That's sort of probably my favorite genre. I like World of Warcraft. Why 3 and not 2? And to me, 3 is like just way better. I think 2 is probably the worst one. Which is not saying it's bad because I like all of the Metal Gear Solid games. But Metal Gear Solid 3 to me just has the best story, and the gameplay is just really cool and really unique. And I think it has the best character, has the best main character. Or I guess that just ties back into the story. The story's better. but 2's good. I still think one of the coolest things about the internet is how you can instantly talk to people around the world, and we don't appreciate that enough. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty tight that we can do that, and we definitely take it for granted. I remember when I first got the internet, and I used to go in chat rooms, and I was just like constantly amazed. It's like, wow, I can talk to people instantly. This is crazy. It's like almost talking on the phone, except I can talk to a bunch of people, a bunch of strangers from all over the world instantly for free. Well, not for free. You got to pay for your internet, but still. Two has a postmodern critique that was way ahead of its time, though. Would be way ahead of its time if it was released today. I mean, I think the whole series is kind of like that. And it's really hard to appreciate MGS2 without playing the rest of the games, because the story is the most convoluted out of all of them. And you kind of really don't really know what's happening until you play the other games. But my plan is to get I've been saying this for a while, but my plan is to get my Twitch channel up and going again. I'm probably going to mainly focus on streaming Smash Brothers for now, but I'll play other games also. But yeah, I'm still gonna do my weekly stream here, and then I'm gonna stream games on Twitch. So if anybody's interested in that, you can follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/theonejanitor. That's the goal. I'll probably start off just streaming on Twitch like once or twice a week, and then we'll just see if I can build it up or whatever. Like, my Twitch channel has historically not been that popular. It's weird. Like, I build 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I can't get anyone to follow me on Twitch. It's pretty depressing. But we'll try it again. Let's see. It's pretty strongly established that free will does not exist. Therefore, how can morality exist if free will does not? Sam Harris claims that there is no free will and says morality is objective. I guess this is like just a constant, or like a really interesting thing to people, because I get asked about free will a lot. And I really hate free will discussions because I don't know what people mean when they say free will. If by free will you mean every action that we do is determined or influenced by prior actions, then that's obviously true. But if by free will you mean we have no choice in terms of what our actions are going to be, that also seems obviously false. And I don't understand how someone could argue that that's true. Because we clearly make choices, and we clearly could sometimes make one or more choice. Like, it's I don't know the name of the fallacy, but it's basically like an argument from incredulity, where you assume that because something happened one way, that it could not have happened any other way. Like that's just not a good argument. So it just kind of depends on what you mean by free will, I guess. If you were stopped by a cop while driving, how seriously would you be worrying about getting shot? Do African Americans have to have that in the forefront of their minds whenever they deal with cops? I think it depends on probably where you live. I don't think that I don't think like you should worry about getting shot by the police every time you get pulled over, but there's, there's a good chance that you'll be mistreated or discriminated against in some way, whether minor or major. And like I said, I think it depends on where you live. Luckily, I think I live in a city where that just is just not a thing that happens really. But other cities, like, they've done analysis of certain cities and found that police had racial bias in how they do violence and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, I think in general black people are just a little more paranoid in general about everything. So the police is really not an exception. Free will not being a thing is just a meme. I mean, kinda. I think seriously that most modern philosophers argue at least that complete free will doesn't exist, but that's like obvious. Obviously everything you do is based on previous events. Live streaming is a grind. I agree. I don't think streaming could be my primary career. That's just, it sounds grueling. I'm a black person with severe Tourette's and other disabilities. I feel like every encounter with a cop is a life or death encounter. I mean, your perspective is definitely unique. So but I mean, I think when I do encounter the police, even though I said it's not, my city doesn't really have that.
Thanks T1J for all you did this year. Happy holidays to you. Share with us any plans you have for next year, and can you reflect a little bit on this year?
Thank you for the donation, Electric Lomain. $20. Appreciate that. I'll answer the question in a second. But yeah, when I do like encounter police, I'm always overly cautious. I try not to make any sudden movements. I try to be polite, even if I feel like I'm being mistreated. So, I don't think I'm consciously thinking, hey, this guy's gonna shoot me. But like I said, I think just as a black dude, I'm just overly paranoid about any sort of interaction with authority. Okay, where's this thing at? All right, thank you for the donation. Let me read your thing again. Wait, where's the thing? Thanks T1J for all you did this year. Happy holidays to you. Can you share with us any plans? Okay, I don't know what plans I have for next year. Definitely want to get more consistent with YouTube. Like you guys have probably noticed that the video uploads have been a little infrequent, but I'm gonna fix that. And I'm currently living with my two brothers who are both involved in sort of online media. And so I think we're going to put our heads together and sort of like form a little company and try to get some make some good content. Like one of my brothers is a music producer and a musician, and the other one is a Twitch streamer that's trying to build a stream. And I think we're all going to work together and try to make it happen. So that's a big thing we're going to try to do in 2019. In terms of reflecting on this year, I think this year has been pretty good for me. It's pretty much the year when I became full-fledged self-employed. Like, I've always kind of been self-employed, but the situations have been really weird. Like, there was a time where I was living, like, pretty much I was living off of around, like, $400 a month, which, if you don't know, is not enough. And then there was a situation where I was technically self-employed, but I was living with my parents, so I didn't have any expenses, so it was pretty cool. But I wasn't making that much money. But now I'm like full-fledged. YouTube is my job. I have my own apartment. I'm paying all my bills with YouTube money, and so it's pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. Obviously, I reached my goal of 100,000 subscribers this year, which is awesome, because it took me a long time to do it, and a lot of that is my fault, but a lot of it is, out of my control. I'm finally sort of getting, I don't know, my channel has gone through a lot of different changes and stuff, but I feel more in control of what kind of stuff I want to make. Like, for a while, I just kind of wasn't sure what I was doing. I just kind of tried a bunch of different stuff. So I don't know. I just feel like more things are just falling into place more now. So that's pretty good. It baffles me how aggressive the police is in the United States. Yeah, it's something we take for granted, but when you like compare it to pretty much any other country besides like fucking third world military dictatorships, you kind of realize it's like, hey, these guys are kind of out of control sometimes. And again, like it depends on where you live. Like the cops in my city are actually like super chill for the most part. I mean, if you go like a couple towns over, it may be a little different, but where I live, they're like super chill. I once heard an NPR interview with a civil rights activist. She advised black men to refuse to put their hands down for any reason when they're pulled over. Do you think that's good advice? I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, I guess it could hurt, but I don't know. The problem is, like, I feel like that sort of misses the point of the problem. Like, the problem is racial bias in police interactions. And you keeping your hands up is not going to remove the bias that they may have. So there's like two situations. Probably the most common situation is the cop is just irrationally more fearful or more concerned than they should be of you. And maybe keeping your hands up could help in that situation, because they could, if you make sudden movements, you may may make them just more alarmed than they should be. But then there's also the situation of just like basically bad cops and cops who have a chip on their shoulder and who are hungry with power, and they take it out on you. And in that situation, it could be bad to, like disobey them. So if they tell you to like put your hands down, you don't do it. That could be perceived as, you being disrespectful to the cop. Would you rather be up for a collaboration with ContraPoints, Peter Coffin, or Philosophy 2? I don't think I would choose. I mean, I'd collaborate with any of those people. What videos would you like your audience not to see? My videos? If I made a video that I didn't want people to see, I have already privated it or deleted it. I think obviously my channel has evolved and my videos have evolved. Pretty much all of my old videos make me cringe. There's a few that I think are good, but even though like some of my views may have evolved, I think it's still okay for people to see the old videos so that they sort of get more context for where I come from and where my views have evolved from. How on earth do you live off of $400 a month? You really don't. You basically, I was living with the roommate, and basically what you do is you pay your half of the rent and you eat Hot Pockets every day, and you hope that you can keep the lights on. Are you a socialist? No. Yeah, I got behind on the chat, so. Why didn't you get food stamps? Well, at that time, I didn't really understand how food stamps worked, and also it was sort of like it's a combination of laziness and anxiety, I guess. Because in order to get food stamps, you have to like fill out this application, and then you have to like do a phone interview, and then they have to like check all of your income sources and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to deal with all of that. But I eventually got food stamps in a later situation. And I strongly advocate, if you are in any way poor, you should try to get food stamps. It's amazing. Is ContraPoints the best YouTuber ever? She's definitely one of my favorite. Like I always say, she's probably one of my top 3 favorite YouTubers right now. Legally, cops can't shoot you for being respectful. They can if they can claim your wallet kind of looks like a gun if you don't wait. 0.25 for your eyes to focus. Yeah, I don't know. Legally, cops can. There's a lot of things that legally cops can't do. But it seems to me that cops get away with doing a lot of stuff that they shouldn't, that they legally shouldn't do. I don't know. I used to be pretty prideful about that sort of thing, like government funding and stuff. But it's like, it's food. I feel like everybody should have food stamps. It's like, sorry for getting food. My bad. You think addiction to entertainment such as TV on demand, video games is a big problem relative to other kinds of addiction? I don't think it's a big problem relative to other kinds of addiction, but it's probably a problem for some people. I think that different people have different kinds of relationships with media and entertainment. And some people are addicted, but probably most people aren't, to the point where it's a actual problem. I do think that the fact that we constantly look at our phones, that's probably not good, right? Yeah, I mean, body cam seems like a good idea, but then you hear stories of people still misbehaving even with the body cams on. Or you hear stories of people turning their body cams off before they do stuff. You ever think of doing video essay stuff or something? Are you talking to me? Is that not what I already do? You need key. I need the car today. Do you think Americans should have universal free health care? I'm British, so I'm very much behind this idea. Our NHS is cheaper per head than the American system and on individual basis. Yeah, I think we should have universal free health care. Absolutely. The whole police system is broken from the inside. No new gadgets are going to fix the root causes. I agree 100%. Like, I think just the whole institution needs to be just reformed and overhauled from the ground up. Like, they need to just rewrite the whole rules of how it works. Would you consider the president or the government a murderer when they order drone strikes that have collateral damage? Who owns the ultimate responsibility there? Well, I think the president is the person who makes that happen. Like, it's the president's call as the commander-in-chief. And it kind of depends, but I mean, you're asking that like a hypothetical, but we actually like do that. And for example, we know, like, many media sources have confirmed that drone strikes, at least the way we use it, maybe it could be improved, but the way that we've used it, I think they say 80% of the time it kills people other than the intended target, and a good portion of those people are civilians or non-combatants. So we already know that this happens. Like, if it was a situation where, like 80% of the time it only kills the person or people that is targeted, and then there's some collateral damage, that would be a different conversation. It might still be a problem, but it would be a different conversation for sure. But at this point, I think it's unambiguous, and I think that's something to I think it's something that we should condemn. And I should say universal healthcare is compassionate too. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that for-profit healthcare is immoral. But that's not, I guess that's not really, that saying that in and of itself isn't really that interesting, so I don't really bring it up, but it's just not a good idea. What do you think of anarchists and or communists calling for police abolition? I don't know. I hear that a lot, but basically what I need to hear is how are you going to deal with criminals and criminal justice and things like that? And I'm sure they have an answer for that, but I rarely hear anyone answer that. That's the problem with a lot of ideologies, is people sort of have, they say what they want to do, but then they don't really explain how it's going to work. They just kind of want to, they like the idea of it, but they don't really explain how to fix the problems that it would cause. Some people do, some people that are actually like well studied about the thing that they're supporting, but a lot of people, I think, they just say stuff because it sounds cool. Christopher Pettigrew, thank you for the €449. Thank you for answering my question. I'm starting to see entertainment addiction as a big problem, since many of our problems in modern societies are exacerbated by a lack of attention. It could be argued that entertainment draws our attention away from things that are more important. Like, I think that's probably a fair argument. But that's not necessarily like an addiction problem. That's just like a priorities problem. In Sweden, we pay $12 for a checkup visit on any healthcare issues. We have high taxes, though, but I'm okay with that. The thing about it, though, you probably have high taxes in general, but in terms of how much of your taxes is used to pay for healthcare, is still lower than the United States. That's like the worst part of this whole thing is the United States. Not only is the healthcare not free, it's in fact very expensive for like the customers of the healthcare, but it's worse healthcare of most of the wealthy nations in the world. Our health outcomes are worse, and we pay more for it. So it's like our whole system is just completely fucked up. When they say no prisons, they actually mean no for-profit isolation for people who don't show evidence of being violent dangers to society. And no cops is about taking that job out of a profit-driven motive and making it a more so community effort. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of anarchist things are about community effort, but I still don't understand how that works.
Hey, T1J. I fundamentally disagree with Patreon blocking Sargon. Not a fan actually, and I have cancelled all my subs. Are there other options to send my support to you? Also, your thoughts on it?
Hold on a second. First of all, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the $10 super chat. If you like PayPal, you can support me monthly through PayPal. Just go to theonejanitor.com/PayPal, and you can set up a monthly donation with that. I don't exactly know why Sargon was banned from Patreon. I sort of missed that. I heard everybody talking about it, but I didn't really look into why it happened. But in my view, Sargon shouldn't have been allowed on Patreon in the first place, because he pretty much since day one has used this platform to bully, harass, and intimidate people. And it seems like just seems like a platform wouldn't allow you to do that. So in my opinion, like, he should have never even had a Patreon, and I'm surprised Patreon didn't ban him a long time ago. So I don't know, that's what I think about that. Our healthcare system also really screws over marginalized people. Yeah, I mean, and that's, to be honest, like, whenever you're talking about any kind of problem in America, at least, you can pretty much take it for granted that those problems are just times 10 for marginalized groups. You know, for people of color, for women, for LGBT people, for disabled people, sometimes even like for old people or for veterans. Like, it's almost always multiplied for those groups. He called alt-right the N-word. I'm not a fan of Sargons at all, but I don't think there should be policing actions elsewhere on the internet. I don't know. I disagree with that. I think that being a representative of a platform, especially a platform that literally gives you the funds to conduct whatever you're doing, I think it's perfectly fine for them to say, hey, you're behaving in a way on other platforms that we don't like, so we're not going to help you do that. I think that's fine, and I think that's you're gonna start seeing that on every platform. I'm pretty sure I mean, you're already seeing it. Like it's in Twitch's policies. I think it's technically in YouTube policies. I know it's on Twitch's policies. Twitch will ban you if you are doing stuff on other platforms that are against their guidelines. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I actually made a live Sunday. Awesome. I could go for a Sunday, I guess. I don't know. It's just, I think what a lot of these platforms are realizing is these huge creators and stars, they just sort of become almost like ambassadors and like they become associated with your brand. And it's even not even from a moral standpoint, it's just bad business to have people associated with you that are just out on the internet being terrible. Like, it's just not a good idea. And it seems any smart business would do their best to not make that happen. Would you be concerned that your behavior might be against their guidelines at some point? Doesn't that type of behavior make decisions arbitrary? I don't know what you mean by make decisions arbitrary. But I'm not concerned. I would be very surprised if Patreon banned me or told me or warned me, because I don't break their guidelines. You can go read their guidelines. You can read the terms of service for any site. And I know a lot of people like to skirt the line of, you know, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, because some people are just edgelords like that. I'm not. I'm not. Well, for the most part, I don't have any desire to behave like that. But even if I did, I could clearly see, hey, you know, this might be against their guidelines. Let's not do that. Seems pretty straightforward to me. So I don't know. Like, that's, for example, that's one of the reasons why I don't do response videos. Now, obviously, a lot of people make response videos, and it's fine. It seems to be okay with YouTube, but every now and then, someone makes response videos, and it gets mass flagged, and then it gets reviewed by YouTube, and YouTube has decided, hey, this is hateful conduct, and we're gonna put a strike on your video. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even gonna entertain the possibility of that happening, because it toes the line of their community guidelines. So, you know, when you sign up for YouTube and you agree to their terms of service, then you follow them, or you get the consequences. And if you don't like the terms of service, then just don't use the platform. Like I said, the Sargon thing, I don't. The guy has been an online harasser for years, so I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. Like I said, I wasn't sure about what happened this time. I don't know if this particular situation, it sounds like it was a clear violation of their policies, assuming what you guys are saying is correct, but I don't know. Do you think we need more regulation on large social media sites considering their power over so much of our society? Yeah, to some extent. I think we have to decide how far we're going to go with that, I guess. But yeah, like Facebook was involved in swaying the election almost certainly. And that's a bit much, The fact that so much propaganda can be spread on a site like Facebook is probably not good, So things like that we need to definitely take a look at for sure. He arguably didn't violate the terms of service. I mean, I don't know what verbatim the terms of service are. I mean, we could look that up sometime. Like I said, I have no sympathy for Sargon because I don't think he should have been allowed on the platform to begin with. But it kind of just sounds like you are jumping through hoops to defend him. That's like the sense that I'm getting right now. So I don't know. Thoughts on YouTube Rewind? I honestly don't see why it's getting so much hate. It's not good, but every other year has been equally bad. Yeah, I don't know. I really think a lot of it is it's just this sort of negativity and cynicism gets fueled by large creators. One of the main ones is PewDiePie. Every year, PewDiePie shits on Rewind, and then all of his fans follow suit. And a lot of other creators hopped on the train this time as well. I like YouTube Rewind pretty much every year. I think it's fine. I'm not sure exactly what people want from it. I think that a lot of it just sort of just feels crammed in, especially nowadays. But other than that, I think it's fine. I mean, it's kind of cringy, but I think they're all pretty cringy. But that's just how this sort of, bubblegum content always is. I don't know what they expected. I'm just concerned about how much control these large media companies have over what we can and can't say. Well, Patreon has not disallowed Sargon from saying stuff. They didn't put him in jail. They didn't tape his mouth shut. A lot of people do a really interesting thing where they conflate freedom of speech with freedom of platform, and they're just not the same thing. And this is like, for example, if he's like out there using racial slurs, this is like, it's kind of hard for me to really understand the argument. Like, it's like he's out there using racial slurs. We don't want someone representing our company that's out there using racial slurs. To me, that seems perfectly reasonable. I don't even think that's close to extreme. So I'm sort of failing to see that argument. If it was something a little less straightforward than the actual N-word, then maybe it'd be a little easier to understand. Do you ever consider boycotting Amazon for their practices? I don't know. I guess I could consider it. I'm not really that. I don't think about it that much right now. The problem with that sort of thing is if I tried to boycott every company that had like unethical business practices, there would probably be nowhere to buy stuff from anymore. See, I don't think that argument works. That slippery slope doesn't work because I don't behave like Sargon. I'm not out here throwing racial slurs out. I'm not out here harassing people and bullying people. So I don't there's not a logical connection in that slippery slope. If you had reason to believe that these platforms were going to start arbitrarily banning people that weren't breaking their rules, then that would be an argument. But to me, when you're out here using racial slurs, that seems to be a pretty straightforward thing. Well, I made a video about how I think it's much more useful to use racist as an adjective than a noun. So I don't know. I don't like to call people a racist unless it's just pretty clear. I mean, you're not taking up my time. That's the whole point of the live stream, is to talk to people. I'm not going anywhere, at least not now. Do you think there can be situations where a company dominates a particular market so much that company denying a person's service equates to that person having their rights restricted? Yeah, I mean, it's possible. And a lot of it is contextual. Like, a lot of times it's not necessarily your rights being restricted, but it can be a contextual form of censorship, which is still okay, but it may not be, like, it still should exist, but it may not be the best outcome. Like, for example, I argued that YouTube demonetizing certain types of content disincentivizes people from making that kind of content, which essentially censors, it equates to censorship of that kind of content. Now, obviously, this doesn't literally mean they have prevented you from ever talking about this, but within the context of YouTube being, one of the largest platforms in the world, them disincentivizing a certain type of content effectively censors that type of content on YouTube, which I don't think YouTube should be disallowed from doing that, but it may not be a good thing for discourse. So that's sort of an example of what I mean. But YouTube can do that, and they should be allowed to do that. Is having an English accent legitimately persuasive for U.S. audiences? Yeah, I think just because stereotypically in a lot of our media, they always make like the smart guy like British or have a British accent, or like the professor always has a British accent. So in America, we associate certain types of British accents with intelligence. Not all of them. Like I don't think when we hear like a Cockney accent, I don't think that we think intelligent. But you know, like certain types of like the received British pronunciation or like posh accents, those type of accents, we just think smartness. But the thing about it is, if the type of content that is being disincentivized is like racist, then I'm okay with that. That there's the caveat. And it's probably a good thing. I think that hateful content, harassment, racist stuff should be disincentivized. But that's not really what I was talking about when I originally made that argument. Because YouTube was, at the time I made that argument, YouTube was demonetizing like LGBTQ stuff, just political stuff in general, news, like just all kinds of stuff. So that's sort of the context where I made that. And I want to stress, I said it like 3 times, but I want to stress, I think that YouTube should be able to do that. I'm just not sure if it has the best outcome. I appreciate the live streams, even if I don't take part in most of them. A lot of content creators don't do stuff like this, so I want to say thanks. I appreciate that, Richard. Do you think there's a way to stop the radicalization of young white men? Well, I don't know. I don't have all of the answers, but currently I think one of the things we can do is just provide an alternative. And so that's something I've been thinking about a lot. I think that deplatforming does help, but you have to be very careful about deplatforming, because you just can't deplatform everything. Like you can say, like if someone is a white supremacist, KKK, neo-Nazi, I don't have that much of an issue with deplatforming that person. However, a lot of people start becoming radicalized by listening to people like PewDiePie or Sam Harris or Jordan Peterson. And these are people who don't say anything extreme enough to really warrant deplatforming. Milo Yiannopoulos, I think, was a borderline case because he outright said a lot of very like hateful and violent things. I don't understand why ownership should give the people who run YouTube absolute control of what does or doesn't go on the platform. What? Why don't what don't you understand? I don't get that. Yeah, if you run the thing, then yeah, obviously you get to decide what goes on that. Like I'm in control of this YouTube channel and this chat right now, and I could fucking delete every comment if I wanted to. I have the power to do it. I almost certainly won't do that, but I could. And that's the way it should be. How's the dating scene in Alabama or your particular time? The dating scene? I don't know. I think there are multiple dating scenes, I guess. But I don't know. I haven't really dated that much. I just kind of hang out with friends. So I guess I don't really know. A lot of my other friends seem to have no trouble finding partners and dates, so I guess it's going well. Isn't that the same argument the Christians use for not making the cake? Yeah, I mean the difference is it's illegal to discriminate against protected groups. And that's why we have anti-discrimination laws. That's pretty much the key difference. If it was another group of people besides like gay people, like if it was like fucking like some punk rockers and the baker was like, I fucking hate punk rock and I refuse to make a cake for a punk rock wedding, then that's fine. They should definitely be allowed to do that. But because it is a protected group, because they are a historically more marginalized group, you aren't allowed to discriminate against them. I think we can engage hateful ideas without platforming people who espouse them. Well, yeah, I think we can. I'm just saying free. I still support free speech. And I know that free speech, like I said, free speech does not equate to freedom of platform. But I'm not really in the business of trying to shut down people's speech unless they're in extreme cases like, you know, the white supremacy, the KKK, that kind of stuff, the Nazis. Why is that how it should be? We're talking about a private company and a website that's made privately by people who no one told them to do it. They just did it on their own accord because they wanted to. Obviously, you get to control your own creation. I don't even understand. Like, I'm having trouble understanding the argument against that. If government decides that it's in the best interest of society to limit YouTube's control of their own creation, I I mean, maybe that could be a thing, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. Because then no one's going to want to make anything or create anything anymore, because they're going to be afraid the government's going to come in and tell them how to do it. Do you consider PewDiePie alt-right? I don't know. I think he's just a useful idiot. Do people actually touch black people's hair without permission? Absolutely. Especially if you have dreads or if you have a lot of hair. %, absolutely. Happens to me almost every time I go out. But YouTube probably makes decisions like that because of capitalism. They're afraid of being caught in the eye of the storm as well, not making the dough, you know. Well, I don't know. As we can tell with pretty much every major platform, these platforms, at the very least, have to have at least the appearance that they are making good decisions that don't harm anybody, because obviously then no one would use their site, or at least a limited number of people would use their platform, and most large platforms don't want a limited number of people. They want everybody, and that's one of the things that moderates a lot of the way that these platforms operate. And obviously a lot of people dispute that these platforms operate in an ethical way, and that's a whole nother conversation. Why is the government telling you how to do it worse than a private company telling you how to do it? I don't know if it's worse. It's not worse. It's just it disincentivizes people from making stuff. And it just, I certainly wouldn't be incentivized to create a platform if I didn't get to choose how it was run. Like, that sort of defeats the whole entire purpose of making stuff. So I guess you could just rely on the government to make all the platforms, but that would probably result in lower quality platforms. Do you mind explaining in which way PewDiePie contributes to the alt-right? I think there's been a lot of analysis about how ironic racism has similar effects to actual racism, and it normalizes racist attitudes, and it like radicalizes people with pre-existing racial biases. And also PewDiePie has been on this semi-political kick for the past couple of years, where he sort of like casually flirts with a lot of the sort of anti-SJW talking points, like he was talking about the wage gap and some other stuff. And those kinds of viewpoints we've seen are like direct gateways to the alt-right. Like the rise of the anti-SJWs on YouTube, I think directly, almost a straight line, led to the normalization of more far right attitudes. Also, the people who created YouTube haven't owned it for years. Yeah, well, that's like kind of missing the point I'm making. Well, I think that the left can probably reassess a lot of their messaging, but I don't think it has anything to do with being sane and thoughtful, because the people on the right aren't sane or thoughtful, and they still seem to do okay. It's about being. We have to develop better narratives, and we have to learn how to make better propaganda than the right, which is sad to say, but that's kind of what we're gonna need to do. And I think that, I don't know, there's like two sides of the left, and neither of them is very useful in terms of strategy. Like, there's the purely here's the data, and I think that's how a lot of people that I know used to be, and I kind of used to be this way, which is like, here's the data, this is what the data says, and if you're just going to ignore the data, then I don't know, you're a lost cause. And it took me a while to realize that this doesn't work. Like, you would think that data would be enough. It's like, hey, here's the data. You know, like I just mentioned the wage gap and how PewDiePie was talking about the wage gap. The wage gap is something you can literally Google. Like, you can spend 4 minutes on Google and find out, oh, there's an unexplained wage gap. That's interesting. But to this day, people still say the wage gap is a myth, because people don't give a shit about data. People like stories and narratives. And the right and the anti-SJWs have done much better at making this narrative. So we just have to get better at that. And then there's the other side, which is basically just kind of like emotional, hysterical, sort of like that sort of thing. I sort of associate it with Twitter, like the Twitter left, where people are just like, just angry and mean. And obviously that's not very, very attractive to people either. So it's like, those are like, to me, like the two major aspects of the online left that I see most of the time, and neither of them seem to be very effective. Let's see. I don't understand how anti-SJW channels are still popular. They say the same thing over and over in any video. Well, I would argue that a lot of the anti-SJW channels have started to slow down. But, you know, some of them have, you know, they're over the hump at this point. So they've got their audiences, and they're not going anywhere. And I also think that some of the channels have themselves evolved a little bit. I mean, some of them still say a lot of the same stuff, but a lot of them have started to focus on other things. Anti-SJW stuff is supposed to be funny. How do you stand up to far-right politics in the guise of comedy without instantly losing the argument by being too earnest? Well, I think that some people do it, and I think that's one of the reasons why people like ContraPoints and H-Bomber Guy are so popular, because they are very funny, or at least people find them funny. I think they're very funny, but they also make their point very well. And not everybody's good at that. In fact, probably most people are not good at that. But the people who are good at that need to do it. It's because there are a million different ways to disingenuously present statistics. Have you seen Ted Cruz use actual climate data to refute climate change? He just presents it in a weird way. Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. And to be fair, I mean, the left sometimes misuses data as well, but it's far more common on the right. I mean, that's like one of their main strategies, I think. Yeah, I was gonna mention Sean as well. A lot of people don't. His humor is very subtle, but it's there, and that's why honestly, like, I've been trying to work on adding humor to my videos a little more. It's not necessarily my strong suit, but you know, I think it's sometimes I succeed at it. But I think it's really important. Like, it seems like a silly thing, but I think humor is very important to delivering messages on YouTube. And that's one of the reasons, you know, as someone mentioned, that's one of the reasons why the anti-SJWs were so popular, is because many of them were able to be perceived as funny. And some of them were actually funny, in my opinion. Yeah. I love Sean's content on YouTube. I find him a little toxic or over the top on Twitter. Twitter is a hellscape. It's really easy to lose your shit on Twitter. That's why I've banned myself from Twitter now 4 days out of the week. I'm pretty sure that I've lost followers on Twitter because I just like lost my shit a couple of times. And it just makes you just like an angry person when you spend too much time on Twitter. And I see it all the time. There's a lot of people that seem really fucking just I don't know, out of control on Twitter, but then you meet them in real life and they're just super chill. Yeah, I mean, the thing with the PewDiePie shouting out the sort of alt-right channel, that's pretty weird. I honestly can believe that PewDiePie was just ignorant enough to not know, but I can understand the argument that that's just a little bit, it's a bit much to just completely not know what the channel's about. But PewDiePie strikes me as a person who just doesn't think at all. So I could believe him just really just being stupid enough to do that. And I mean I used to watch PewDiePie. I used to be actually a pretty big fan of PewDiePie. But I don't know what the fuck he's on lately. Three Arrows is good. Does he have a 100,000 subscribers yet? He's close, I think. Like that's one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in the political sphere. Yeah, he just crossed 100,000. That's dope. This dude got 100,000 subscribers in like 4 months or something. It was a little more than 4 months, but that's pretty good. Less than a year. Did you and ContraPoints plan on releasing your punching Nazis video on the same day? They were both pretty far behind the event and seemed too coincidental. No, we didn't plan it. But yeah, that's why I say that it's more useful to use like racist and words like that as an adjective instead of a noun, because it's like if we're sitting here and arguing about is PewDiePie a racist? Is he a Nazi? It just seems like a useless argument. What is more important is the outcomes of his actions, and clearly he's doing shit that has harmful outcomes or potentially harmful outcomes, and that's what matters. I'm not really interested in trying to read his mind and determine his innermost biases. What I'm interested in is discussing the harmful effects of his behavior and his speech. I just think that's a better way to talk about it. And I really hope that I don't just become just a clueless buffoon if I ever reach that level of success. Because, I don't know. I just noticed your bed isn't made. Jordan Peterson would not approve. Yeah, that's true. I don't think I'm Jordan Peterson's target audience, though. I'm too old. I think he likes the young boys. Well, I don't. That was kind of a weird phrasing. He likes the young boys, but I think he clearly is talking to young men. I think I'm out of his demographic. Young white man. Yeah, it's it's technically young white man. But as a black dude, when you are, especially if you're a black atheist, a lot of content that I now can tell is geared towards young white men. You can still sort of fall for the same shit because if you're like a young edgy black dude, you kind of want to be against the grain, and you don't want to sound like you're conforming to all of the same mumbo jumbo. So you kind of fall for that same shit sometimes. Yes, Snapple. I mean, you just got to find a way to do it to manage your online activities so as to the point where it doesn't affect your own mental well-being. Like for me, it's just honestly for me, the more time I spend on Twitter, the less happy I am just overall. Like I'm probably like more informed about the world when I'm on Twitter because Twitter is always up to date with current events. But I'm just less happy, so I use it less. I think it's important for me not to delete Twitter just because it's good for my career, but I don't have to spend fucking 6 hours every day on it, for sure. I've been seeing a lot of edgy black dudes lately. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think it, especially nowadays, you know, like your sort of male side takes over your black side, I guess. I feel like a lot of, like, most of the stuff that Jordan Peterson says that is agreeable is just like really basic common sense stuff, like fucking, like, don't waste your time, stuff like that. Go to sleep, go to bed early, be organized. It's like, okay, that's like, it's the same shit that my fucking middle school guidance counselor told me. Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I mean. Spartanite is that I'm more aware, but being aware is half of being informed, and Twitter keeps me aware. No, I don't think that Twitter is a good place to get information or insight, but it is a good place to learn what has happened in the world. So I should be clear about that. I think Twitter in general is pretty, it's just like political extremism for the most part on both sides. Obviously that doesn't apply to everyone, but it's just not really a good way to get a good sense of what of people's views on things. That's why I think it's crazy, like, or well, it's like when you go to a like if you read an article, you ever read an article and then they use Twitter to like as sort of like the voice of the people, so it'll be like, here's what some Twitter people had to say about this. It's like, I don't think that's good, because people on Twitter are out of control. Like, they don't really represent the average person. And I think a lot of it does depend on who you follow, that's true, but I didn't intentionally follow extremists, yet this is like always on my timeline. And a lot of times it's not just who you follow, but you read conversations from people you follow, or you read the replies to people you follow, or you get yourself inside of conversations from people you follow. So a lot of times it's not always just who you follow. All right, Snapple, thank you for coming to the stream as always. There are a lot of people that I like that I disagree with, semi-frequently. But Jordan Peterson is not one of those people. I just don't think that Jordan Peterson has ever said anything that I find interesting. Earlier we were talking about black people getting persecuted by the cops. Is that more of an issue for black men than it is for black women? Yeah. But it's still disproportionate for black women also. But yes, that is definitely more of an issue for black men. And it's more of an issue for men in general, actually. But especially black men. That is one of the few instances in which men are disadvantaged with relations to women is in law enforcement and criminal justice. But especially if you're black. Yeah, I in general, like if I see that Sam Harris is talking about something, I might check it out because he might say something interesting about it. But Sam Harris is, for me, that's why I made like a 20-minute video about him, because he sort of represented like a very big shift in my own way of looking at the world. So he kind of, I have like a special connection to Sam Harris, and I sort of equate him with a lot of negative aspects of my own personality. So I tend not to really take him very seriously these days. But I acknowledge that he's like a really smart guy and he says a lot of cool stuff. I haven't watched the Armor Skeptic video in a long time, but I will say that I watched Creationist Cat's video about Armor Skeptic, and it did not really make him look very good, which is, to be fair, that's the point of it, and that's like one of the problems with doing those kinds of videos is you kind of shape someone's opinion of someone else and they're not really there to defend themselves. But, you know, a lot of it involved like actual video of him and stuff, and I don't know, he just seems very smug sometimes. His last podcast illustrated a lot of what's good about him, but also how blind he is to his own ego and blind spots. Yeah, that's like the biggest problem with him, really. He just cannot conceive of the possibility of himself being wrong. All right, S. Gustafsson, thank you for coming to the stream. Shout out to all of the people in other time zones that stay up late with me. I try to do the stream kind of early so that people can at least, you know, watch me for a little bit before they go to bed, but it's pretty much impossible to stream at a time that's good for everybody. Can you give a shout out to other channels you like? Do you specifically mean channels that talk about like politics and stuff? Do you even work out still? I haven't worked out in a while, mainly because my car wasn't working. I mean, I stretch and stuff like that at home, but I'm about to get back into working out for sure. My top 3 favorite channels right now are Captain Disillusion, Vlogbrothers, and ContraPoints. But 2 of those channels are not politics channels, so I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Because you mentioned 3 Arrows who talks about politics, so. I like made a list for someone. See if I can find it. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're looking for. You seem like the more leftist stuff you may not be into. But anyway, this is ContraPoints, Folding Ideas. He does more like pop culture stuff, I guess. Philosophy Tube. H Bomber Guy talks about politics frequently, but not always. Peter Coffin. Marina shut up, although she hasn't posted a video in like 2 months, so I don't know if she's taking a break or something. Thought Slime is a good new channel, but Thought Slime is a straight up fucking anarchist. So if you're into that, you can you can check that out. Innuendo Studios is good also. Yeah, a lot of people have been recommending Angie Speaks. I haven't watched too much of it though, but she's been getting a lot of props from people. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I don't know. Sometimes, because a lot of times when people ask for recommendations, it's usually people like trying to find ideas that they haven't heard. So a lot of times it's like centrists who like watch anti-SJWs, but they're recently like getting more into progressive content. And for those people, I don't want to recommend like just hardcore fucking leftists, because they may not be ready for that. Like people like Thought Slime and Peter Coffin, like those people are just basically fucking communist. So, I mean, I don't know what they actually identify with, but they're just like straight up, we need to overthrow capitalism type stuff. And I think the videos are good, but it may not be like very appealing to certain people. It's for those people. I think people like ContraPoints and H Bomber Guy and Sean are very good. Even though I think that all of those people are all anti-capitalist, they just don't go as hard on it in their videos. And then there's people who I like but are controversial. I would argue like unjustifiably, but there's people like Riley Dennis and Cat Black who I think make very good videos, but a lot of people have preconceptions about them because of their names, their reputations being maligned. Yeah, Lindsay Ellis is if you want to like sort of scratch the surface, but again, she mostly does like pop culture stuff. Rarely actually talks about politics, but it's clearly, her videos are clearly from a progressive standpoint. Would you say you agree with Peter Coffin? I like his stuff, but I always hit a shit doesn't work like that wall. I think I probably have the same experience. Like I disagree with a lot of his sort of solutions and ideas about things, but I think that he still makes really interesting arguments. Did Garrett start making videos again? I heard that he was going to. Is his channel back? Garrett was one of the best ones back in the day. Yeah, Riley Dennis was sort of she was a target of the anti-SJWs, so they like did a number on her reputation. But I think she has like one of the best channels, especially if you're interested in learning about trans issues and also sometimes polyamory issues. I learned a lot about trans stuff from Riley Dennis. Like, she helped me understand a lot of it. She's still an Anita for them. No, yeah, for sure. Even people like on the left don't like her. It's the same thing for Anita. I was watching a video recently from the channel The Progressive Voice, which some of you may be aware of. It's like a news channel. Like, it's sort of just a guy commenting on the news, but it's, you know, he's a progressive. But he recently mentioned Riley Dennis, and he said, like, the big thing that people always say about Riley Dennis is that she believes that it's transphobic if you don't want to date or have sex with trans people, which of course is not a thing she's ever said, but that's like one of the big memes about her. But on his channel, on The Progressive Voice, he like repeated that as if it was true. So like, even people that are progressives and are supposedly on the same side, even they, you know, believe some of this stuff. Yeah, Kyle still talks about SJWs sometimes, which I don't know. I mean, I guess different people have different views on the whole SJW thing. Like, there are people who are progressives or who are on the left who sort of agree with the SJW idea, albeit to a different extent. Like, the idea that some people on the left are just a little overzealous and a little obnoxious, and they make everyone look bad. But I'm at the point where if you are still using SJW unironically, it's like impossible for me to take you seriously. But I'm gonna go ahead and go. I kind of went over. I usually stream for 2 hours. We're about 2 hours and 15 minutes. But you know, we had a hearty conversation, so that's cool. But I have to go because I've got some stuff to do later. But I want to thank you all for coming to my stream as always. If you didn't know, I stream every Monday. I start at 2 p.m. Central Time, which I know is very late for some of you, but thanks for joining me anyway. Sorry it's been a while since the last video. That should be coming out pretty soon, hopefully in the next couple days. But yeah, check out the description below the video. There's some links in there you might want to check out. You can follow me on my social media, and if you'd like to support me, there's some links down there for you to do that as well. Thank you for the people that super chatted and donated today. Okay, I thought I missed one. Thanks for all the donations, super chats. And when will the next stream? Will it be before Christmas? The next stream should be on Christmas Eve if you guys are around. I don't think I'm gonna be busy on Christmas Eve, so I should still stream. So we can have a little Merry Christmas celebration. And like I said, I'm gonna start streaming on Twitch at some point. So just follow me on Twitch for now. I don't know the schedule for that yet, but if you are interested in watching me play video games, particularly Smash Bros, you can follow me on twitch.tv/the1janitor. And that's a thing that's gonna happen. But that's it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.